Hi, I'm Allison Roy. Thank you so much for your time and dropping by for my presentation. I chose to focus on the South Sudan as my country, that I looked at their economic status and how they were doing with their overview. Now, a little bit about Sudan is that it is a brand new country. It was just established in 2011. It's the world's newest country, actually, and they separated from the Sudan. They were initially, in 2011, they separated from the Sudan, and they were initially fighting just decades of civil war and unrest. And that's kind of been happening within the country since then. So the first challenge that the South Sudan has for them is war, which I can touch a little bit more on that. Their GDP is $200. The majority of the country lives on less than $1 a day. Poverty is just rampant and widespread. The primary export of the country is oil, and when the oil prices and production dropped, the country was hurt. And then also during a civil war within the country, Japan is their main supporter in the oil industry. They jumped out of the boat due to all of the civil unrest there. So it hurt the country then even more. Projections of the oil export industry is definitely projecting to improve in the next couple of years, because the prices of oil have risen, and so have so obviously then they're going to start producing. The war in the oil production in South Sudan, all the wars, basically they were only putting out like 10% of their production when they can put out just millions of barrels a day. So that is pretty extravagant, if you think of those numbers. Part of the unrest between Sudan and South Sudan was the price that Sudan was charging South Sudan for transit fees of the oil exports. They recently signed a treaty, a revitalization treaty among each other, that basically is saying that they are going to reduce that transit fee from $9 to $4. So they're cutting it majorly in half, to help with peace and to bring back the country's economy. So going back to the war that is involved in this country, this is kind of the biggest thing that has brought them to where they're at right now with poverty, no health, access to healthcare, food, or education. The president and vice president of South Sudan were fighting pretty significantly, that caused some unrest. And they just signed a peace treaty last summer in 2018, basically agreeing to just, put their differences aside and work toward building the country. So I believe they're definitely forecasting that as the beginning of change in the South Sudan. In 2011, when they became a new country, they took on a new currency, the pound. So that has definitely risen and fallen, and then fallen some more over the last couple years, due to the war and unrest and the lack of exports. A big challenge they have in their economy as well is their lack of diversity within their export systems and within their economy whatsoever. So it's really eliminated any infrastructure within the country, and it has kind of caused, it's a ripple effect, as we know and as we're learning. So just some information on South Sudan. Their literacy rate is less than 30%. It's even worse among women. It's under the 20% mark among women. Half of the country has never been through primary school. In healthcare, people do not have access to healthcare as well. 1 in 7 women die during childbirth, I read in one of my sources, and that's just astronomical. And these are kind of the results of having such an unsteady economy. But to look at the outlook, Their GDP and their GDP annual growth is -6 right now. It's projected to be -2.25 by the end of 2020. And so I know they're still in the hole, but at least it's getting better. They're definitely working toward just creating more industry. They have a lot of natural resources there. The Nile River goes through the country, so they're wanting to access more agriculture, because not only is the oil industry an export, but also the majority of the country does not even have income. They do self-sustaining farms, and everybody works mainly for cattle and farms. So, and then also getting water. So it's very interesting country. Please let me know if you guys have any specific questions that you want me to go over. But I know it sounds like the leaders are working very hard for their country, and they are doing the best that they can. I'm definitely seeing some foreign aid coming in eventually to help out the country. So I hope you guys have a good day. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for your time.